Hey, what's up guys, Bajheera here. As you guys may have been able to see from some of my recent YouTube videos, I've been playing a little bit of Rift, and I hit level 60 on my Warlord Warrior. And I've been seeing a lot of comments on YouTube and even some requests on the stream to go over my specs. So keep in mind guys, this build could definitely use some improvements here or there, because as I was leveling, you know, I wasn't the most experienced player, but as I leveled, I learned, and there's definitely some tweaks that you could make to this build. But what I wanted to do for this video is show you where I'm at for right now. So I'm gonna pull up my talents tab. In terms of my souls that I've used, I went into Paragon, obviously Warlord, and Tempest. The reason I did that is because Paragon does add some nice things to your arsenal. You get the Way of the River buff, and I really like this one, this Turn the Blade. It reduces the duration of the global cooldown by 0.5 seconds and reduces the power cost of abilities by 33%. So that sounds awesome, and it is. But it reduces the damage and healing done by 30%, but I really find that even if I'm doing a little bit less damage, I really don't energy starve as bad as I feel like I would without the buff. You also get access to Rising Waterfall, which is a nice little follow-up attack, and Focus of Body, which is increased strength by 70 on all party raid members, which is a nice buff for yourself and for your teammates. What I've done on Warlord is I've just filled up the entire tree. So as you go, you know, you can pick out talents that you think you will like as you're leveling up. You know, this is an end game build for me, so pretty much that's what I did. I just went along, picked out talents I thought were cool along the way, but eventually you want to fill up this tree completely. So for the Paragon, what I did is I put 5 points in Teaching of the 5 Rings, and I put 5 points in Weapon Familiarity. You might only want to put 4 in there, so you could put 1 here and then 3 here, but I ended up putting 1 here as well. So you guys have a lot of, you can mess around. I'm sure that the numbers will tell you what the best thing to do is. This is what I ended up doing, but the reason I wanted to put 12 points in Paragon is just so I could go ahead and get this Focus of Body thing. Over here on Tempest, the reason I wanted to Tempest is because it does give you some nice ranged builders and a ranged finisher along with a cool buff. So this is like a stacking, it's just, I guess it doesn't stack up, but it says for 15 seconds after a successful hit, enemies take an additional 2% damage from the warrior. So you're doing a little bit of extra damage to your enemies after you hit them, and you get a nice little ranged builder, and it makes your auto attacks ranged as well, and a ranged finisher. So even though you have 2 charges and a resettable charge with this build, you still don't want to get kited around as a melee. So that's what I've got for my talents. In terms of my macros, I've got a charge. Well, sorry, that's my other build. I've got a charge, which pretty much has all of my normal abilities in there. So that macro is hashtag show into the breach, suppress macro failures. It casts into the breach, and you can bind your charges separately. I just like having it on the same button. Cast piercing thrust, cast king of the hill, cast a quick death, cast a rising waterfall, cast empowering strike, cast shock pulse, cast arterial strike, and cast backhand. And now that's going to be a lot of your builder attacks. Some of them are off global cooldown, so feel free to spam this thing. And what I've got on my next one is my finishers. Show killing field, suppress macro failures, cast killing field, cast breaking blow, cast skyfall. So, and the reason I have it set up like that is because you want killing field to go off first. You want to use this as like, you're building your damage up, you're ramping it up. Then you'll start casting breaking blow with your points after that. And if they're at range, you won't be able to hit with these two, or you won't be able to hit with breaking blow at least. And then you'll be able to cast skyfall on them if they're not in melee range. So that still works out nicely. Now I have this tab for extras. So some of these attacks, they like piercing thrust, decisive strike, rising waterfall. They have requirements. The decisive strike is nice. It deals weapon damage, and it activates and refreshes piercing thrust and wave of steel. So you can even throw, I might even throw wave of steel in here. But the piercing thrust, the reason why this one is so nice is because it must be usable, or it becomes usable after certain attacks, and this also helps me for my talents deal more damage with my other attacks. So this is the kind of ability that you might want to throw into another tab, just so you can hit it on its own every once in a while. Because having it in a big macro like this is fine, and you can get away with it, and I did before. But I found that as I go along in the game, you start to learn a little bit more about it, and I feel like something like this is going to be a lot more helpful than just having all your abilities in one macro. Although having all your abilities in one macro is kind of a silly, but a little bit fun way to play as well. But as I'm getting a little bit better, I'm realizing you know, in my mind I was like, you know, I might want to pull out some abilities as I go, so I pulled out these for right now. And I might even buy more of my abilities separately, like my execute. I might want to buy my execute separately, things like that. But anyway, that's the basic setup for this kind of guy. And the way you play him, at least the way I play him, is that you have 2 buffs, a tactical surge, and a battle surge. And ideally you want to have both of these active before you start dealing most of your damage. I'll actually run over to a target enemy right now. And I do have my sound turned down. I guess I can turn that back up while we were running over there. Just so you guys can hear the battle noises. That's the master. Where's my master plan? Here we go. So the way I've been playing this up till now, and you guys can help me out if I'm wrong, but the way I've been playing this up to now is you'll charge in, and you're gonna get your, you know, get your 3 points up as fast as possible. Get your surges rolling. Get your second one up. Now you're gonna get another 3 combo points. I think I just popped it without 3 combo points. That's fine. Get another 3 combo points. Get your killing field rolling, which you're seeing right now. Reset the cooldown on killing field, and then just continue to get killing field stacks, and you can pop this extra attack. You'll see the burst comes in really nicely here. But what this ability is doing is it's making it so that none of my abilities are costing. Or they don't have any cooldown on them, so you can just spam, get as many of those procs rolling as you want, and then eventually those buffs will, eventually this buff will fall off. I didn't even talk about that one. I should mention that actually, what it actually is. So it's called Battlefield Experience. It resets the cooldown on King of the Hill, Decisive Strike, Clear the Breach, and Killing Field. So some of your bigger attacks it resets the cooldown on. And for the next 15 seconds, these abilities require 30% less power and are no longer on cooldown. So they cost a lot less, and they don't have any cooldown, so you can spam them. So you can essentially spam your biggest attacks, and that is huge damage in Battlegrounds, especially with Killing Field up like that. You're gonna reset your buffs again. Especially with Killing Field up, you do tons and tons of AoE damage. Plus, it's pretty worth using on a single target that you're having a special, you know, problems bursting down. You know, you want to hit this guy as hard as possible, so you get your Killing Field rolling. You just keep that Killing Field rolling and spamming. You know, you can spam your builder, or you can spam this one even, because it's got Decisive Strike on there, and it's gonna be constantly resetting the cooldown on it. So really nice burst coming out of that. And that's the basic idea. Get your buffs up, get Killing Field rolling, and start using them as finishers as much as you can. You know, if you have some procs that you'd like to use in the extras little tab of macros, you can definitely drop that on some people for some quick bursts, and then continue to spam your finishers. So it's a pretty fun little way to play. It's got a little bit of a ramp up time, but once you get used to that, once you sort of keep in mind the duration of your buffs, then as long as you keep those active, then you start to do a lot of damage in Battlegrounds. I don't really have the best gear, and you know, I definitely am still learning in terms of Rift, but I can often, you know, be near the top of damage, if not top damage in Battlegrounds. So that's a lot of fun. In terms of like your utility, you've got Way of the River buff, which is for yourself. You've got Focus of Body, which is for your raid. You've got Enhanced Conductivity. You've got Ready Posture, which increases the damage done by 15%, increases critical hit damage and healing by 5%, and reduces ability cost by 5%. This is like your final level, like your 61 point Warlord talent, which is really nice. I also like to use Deadly Posture. It increases crit chance by 10%. And the reason I like to do that is because this ability right here, critting in general is nice, but Arterial Strike must be used after a critical strike, and it deals, you know, around 1500 damage, and also causes them to bleed for just over elite damage over 10 seconds. So that's a nice little additional bleed that you can get rolling. I feel like Killing Field's kind of like a bleed, so just all that damage rolling on people gets really scary. Plus, it's just fun to crit people. Those are your buffs, and in terms of like your utility, you have 2 charges. You have Into the Breach, and you have Clear the Breach. And Clear the Breach is reset by your Battlefield Experience cooldown. So that's pretty cool. You've got 1 charge, and then another charge, then a resettable charge if you wanted to use your reset that way, or if it just sort of happens. I'd recommend you save it for some of your bigger cooldowns, like applying your Killing Field and then getting another Killing Field rolling after that. So the Killing Fields do seem to stack. People were telling me they didn't, but it definitely looks like they do. Definitely seems like it does in their health bar. But you also have a Sprint, which is cool. It increases, it's a forced march. It increases your movement speed by 50% for 15 seconds. And you also have a nice little disengage, a little defensive maneuver. You can also hop back and use that to charge back in on somebody, which is cool. In terms of additional utility, in terms of your interrupts and your CC, You've got neck punch, which is a interrupt, not on the global cooldown, with an 8-second cooldown. You've got wrist strike, which debilitates the enemy for 5 seconds. It's on a 30-second cooldown. And you also have Eye of the Storm, which snares the enemy for 10 seconds. This is the kind of ability that I have bound separately, but honestly, I might even just macro this thing into something, because I find that having your enemy snared is super, super helpful. And it's on the global cooldown. It's not on the global cooldown. It only costs 6 power, so it might be worth macroing in to say this giant macro right here might even be worth just putting in there. Cast Eye of the Storm. And we'll see. I'm going to put that in there. We're going to see how that works. But the only thing about this particular setup is that you don't want to be losing out on a piercing thrust. But then again, that's why we have it also in a separate button, just in case we want to use that after, you know, using other abilities, so that Eye of the Storm wouldn't consume this potential use. But anyway, we've also got 2 heals. Battlefield Medic really does not heal for very much. It's kind of like, you know, you might want to spam it if you're trying to run away, barely escape combat. It might save you from rows of dots or something. But No Permission to Die is actually a pretty sweet ability. It applies No Permission to Die, which means that if the warrior receives a killing blow within 10 seconds, restores 50% health. But that's not, it's not quite how that works. I'm not sure what maybe I'm just not reading the tooltip properly. But what happens is, you apply this to yourself, and if you are killed within 10 seconds, it will restore 50% of your health. So, if the warrior receives a killing blow, it makes me kind of think, well, if I kill somebody, but I guess if it's receives rather than deals, it just that's kind of just me reading the tooltip wrong. But it will basically heal you to 50% if you would otherwise have died, which is pretty cool. I also have Surgeon's Order, which pulls the enemy to the warrior's location, which is like a grip mechanic. If defensive or recovery posture is active, forces the enemy to attack the warrior for 3 seconds. I don't think that it works like that in PvP, but it definitely grips targets to you. This one, General's Order, pulls up to 5 enemies to the warrior's location. If defensive or recovery posture active, forces them to attack the warrior. I feel like this one doesn't work in PvP, but maybe I'm just a noob and don't use it properly. But this one definitely does. That's a lot of fun. You also have a little Thunderous Leap from my Planar attunement, which we can talk about. Planar attunement in this game is pretty neat. It's kind of like it's like an account-wide talent system for your characters that are level 50 and up. So I've pretty much my efforts are to max out the war tree. After that, I might go into fire, because people were talking about that actually is pretty good for your damage. So I'm probably gonna go into fire after war. But so far, trying to max out that war tree. I'm sure that will sound familiar to the experienced players with Rift, but with me, you know, I am new to this expansion for sure, so this is really, really neat for me, and I've been enjoying Rift so far a lot. But if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to leave them below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace!